I am back and the glasses are too. So I got back home today and I remembered that yesterday my friend asked me to make a little thing. And I thought, that's a pretty good idea. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I give you Kokichi Ouma. You see, my friend got me into this little thing called Danganronpa, and I personally enjoy it. It's a game with a pretty nice premise. You can look it up. I'm not gonna explain it because there's way too much to explain. But he's from the third installment of the Danganronpa series, and she told me, "Hey, could you make this?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I'm gonna show you today, like the Dr. Doofenshmirtz video and the Vector video, how to make this out of clay. You know the drill by now. I'll tell you the materials you need. So like the other clay things I've built, you're gonna need a series of tools like X-Acto knives and what else? Ball tools, stuff like that. Just stuff to smooth out the clay, stuff to make little indentations, and stuff to cut it with. Just the essential stuff that you're pretty much gonna need is all you're actually gonna need to build this thing. Aluminum wire, that is a given because you need this to build a little skeleton on the inside of it to build the armature. And that just holds the whole thing together, because if you don't have that, the whole thing kind of just, like, flops over in the oven and just dies. There's no point of making it if you don't have any of this. Needle nose pliers for bending the wire and cutting it at the same time. And then onto the clay itself. You'll need white, black, a tiny bit of red, tiny bit of gold, and a bit of purple, which will mix with black later to make it dark to the point where we can make his hair. With the materials laid out, that's pretty much all you're going to need to begin building this little monstrosity. So without further ado, I'll begin the time lapse like I've done for the other two, and we will begin making God.
Hello and welcome back to another installment in the terrible clay making series. I'm hoping you're enjoying whatever this is. I'm not recording this twice. First of all, I'm making the little armature or skeleton for Kokichi. And speaking of skeletons, I'm currently fighting Sans Undertale, if you can't hear, because this is going to take about 5 minutes to record, or I don't know how long I made the time lapse. Regardless, pretty much, I'm sculpting the armature by taking two pieces of aluminum wire and then threading them together in the shape of the photo, and then taking a central piece, wrapping it around the middle, and putting it over the top. And then onto the little feet area, I take black clay, cut a little cylinder of it, cut that cylinder in half, and then cut a slit inside of the cylinder's sides so I can wrap it around the feet and make shoes out of it. And then you smooth out the clay, make little indents to copy the looks and features of the shoes, which ends up making it turn into actual full-fledged shoes, aside from what it was previously as tiny clumps of clay. Adding more details to the shoes because of the fact that I couldn't do it right the first time, so I'm completing them in another time lapse. And I know you're gonna say, why'd you do that? I don't know. I worked on this thing last night and the day before, and I didn't think I'd need to do that, but I did. But, I mean, it's just what happens. But, I will say that, after the shoes, you go onto the legs. Who would have thought, right? Essentially what you do is you take two cylinders of white, or a long cylinder of white, cut it in half, and then cut a slit down the middle of that, and then wrap that around the leg area of the armature, which completes the legs because you just smooth them over after that, and then add a little area to the shoes to make it look like it connects properly. And after that, I padded out the chest area by wrapping a sheet of clay around repeatedly until I got the desired thickness that I needed, which ends up making it look more complete, because the thing is that with the chest area of clay figures, you have to make it look proportional to the rest of the body, or else it just looks lanky and weird. So you have to have a nice compromise of both size and shape, just so that it can all look right in the end product. But another way to do that is you take a tiny piece of white, and you smooth that on to different areas of it to match the body of the character you're making. So I had to pat out the sides a little bit and pat out the top and make it divot into the middle and then go back up, kind of like an hourglass almost. So that worked out. And same concept for the arms that I just put on. Take more white cylinders, wrap them around, add that back. For the hands, just look at the hands on the photo and copy them to the best of your ability. That's the best way I can really describe it. On the back, he has a tiny little crisscross pattern of purple, where you roll out a tiny little line of purple clay and then cross that over to make that design, along with these two little buttons that he has on the back of his shirt, where you take a small piece of red clay and a small piece of the gold clay, and then you put them on the back. And another thing that I don't believe I mentioned was there's probably these little straps on his legs. I can't see because the little recording thing for the time lapse covers it. But I believe I put little straps on his legs that have tiny little buckles. Just cut little strips of clay, wrap those around the legs, and then do the same for the straps, and then put on the tiny little buckle by cutting a square of gray clay, and then adding that to it and detailing it to the desired amount. If you'd like to know why I'm talking in the time lapse, mind your own business. I would appreciate that. Thank you. No, really, it's the friend that actually asked me to make this is the one I'm talking to on the other end, because last night when I was making this, they gave a call, and I'm like, alright, fine, and I called them back. Oh yeah, by the way, he has a bunch of buckles on his shirts and a bunch of clips and everything. Just cut little lines of gray clay and match them up to match the specifics of his shirt. He has a little symbol on the side of his shirt, which you can find by literally just looking up Kokichi symbol, because that will come up. Cut it out of lines of black clay and affix it onto that. For the head for Kokichi, which is what I'm working on now, you take a little bit of tan clay, roll it up into a ball, or rather, no, I took a ball of white clay, shaped it into his head, but made it a little smaller, and then wrapped tan clay around it so that I didn't use up too much tan clay. But pretty much make it look like the shape of his head in the photo that you would have. And then, I believe I'm making the hair as far as I can tell. You may think, but this is supposed to be a tutorial video, you should know what you're doing. I can't see. The recording option takes up half the screen. It's not my fault. But essentially, for making the hair, you take a take a purple strip of clay and cut it in a circle, put it on his head, and then fill out the hair from there by taking smaller little cylinders of purple clay and rolling them out. And by the way, to get that shade...
Now, first of all, I don't know how well I explained things in that time lapse, because I watched some of them back through and I'm like, oh, I barely showed any camera angles. But I can't really change that now, because the thing is already built, so I can't really do much about that. But I'll try to do my best to explain it in the time lapse when I end up editing that in a little bit. Anyway, I went ahead and baked this, and baked it for about 18 minutes at 230 degrees. And I think the last thing I need to do is, he has a little checkerboard scarf, see, and it's supposed to be black and white. The checkerboard pattern and everything. So I'm going to draw that on. But first, get out some paint, because I'm going to be painting the white parts over so
these
they look
video
more
clips
white,
are 2.5 hours apart because I took so long painting this stupid tiny object
on the thing, regardless of how well you wash them. So I've just finished painting it, and I finished painting the coat along with the checkerboard pattern, which I drew in with a Sharpie, then painted over later, so it wouldn't be as shiny and it would look more natural. But aside from that, that's pretty much all that needs to be done in terms of this figure on its own, because every other little thing I just happened to polish with, I believe it is satin glaze or gloss glaze. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. They're both glosses that you can add, and it makes everything nice and shiny, so now his eyes light up and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much all this is gonna need today, so thanks for tuning in, I guess. Stay watching, because eventually I might end up having an update on the bike chair, because I'm gonna keep building that. You better believe it. It's gonna happen at some point. It's almost done. Just need to replace one of the tires, and that's about it. Drill some more stuff, and it should be good. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. If you make this, good luck.
You won't get any luck from this video, that's for sure.
Goodbye, and I hope you got something from this.
You didn't.
I don't know.